Hello everyone, welcome back to AAS Publishing. We're going to continue with part 2 of the series on anonymity. In the first part of this video series we primarily talked about the single anonymous review process that the AAS journals use and the reasons why we do that. And those were basically better reports, better author replies, protecting our junior members of the community. So in part 2 here I want to briefly talk about some of the alternatives, such as an open review process and what some of the pluses and the minuses are associated with that kind of a process. So anonymous might seem like hiding behind a curtain a la the Wizard of Oz to deliver an unscrupulous blow to an article. But the scientific editor is there to ensure that this doesn't happen. There's lots of telltale signs when a review comes in that its primary purpose or even its secondary purpose is to try and not improve the paper to make its way to publication. Reviews that are strictly opinion pieces, that don't have any quantitative critique, that don't compare with the literature. There's lots of telltale signs of a review that is not there to try and improve the paper. There's also value in keeping the process impersonal between author and referee, with that discourse mediated by the scientific editor. And so these two functions of the scientific editor are benefits to the community, to your paper, to your manuscript. That whole scientific editor structure. Because the critical mission of the AAS journals is the scientific integrity of the field. This is job number one. And the scientific editor structure is one facet in this multi-pronged effort. Other facets of this multi-pronged effort are discussed in the video series on the business model of the AAS journals. So if you're interested in seeing what some of those other multi-pronged efforts are, go ahead and take a look at that business video series. Okay, so let's talk about some alternatives. So in an open review system, reviewers may be cautious for careerist reasons, either their own career or their student's career, their postdoc's career, or their collaborators. And the fear of revenge is very human, and it's not very easily overcome. And a critical open review can also carry more consequences in litigious societies, for example. And so the combination of those two can cause the peer review process to slide toward mediocrity. Everybody's a little too scared to say something critical to help improve a paper. Instead, it's sort of this mushy middle, and everything's fine, everything's great, and the papers don't really improve as much as they could and or should through the peer review process. So these are some of the cons of the peer review, open peer review system. And you can kind of see elements of this when the experiments I've run where you allow the author and the referee to, their identities to be known to each other. Reports tend to be a little bit softer, not quite as rigorous to help improve the paper, and the authors respond accordingly. So those are a couple of the cons. On the other hand, there are some positives to an open peer review system. This would probably encourage referees to provide a more thoughtful, tactful, and constructive report, right? So we get away from referee reports that are sloppy if you have to sign your name to it. It might be a little bit more tactful, a little bit more aware of the dynamic, and a little bit more constructive as opposed to trying to kill the paper. And also an open peer review process would more easily unmask reviewers whose primary interest is in suppressing publication. So again, Wizard of Oz, Toto pulling back the curtain to reveal a reviewer that has some nefarious purposes to their review. Okay. But in any event, whether you go single anonymous, double anonymous, which we'll talk about in the next video, or whether you go an open review process, the goal of any change in the peer review process has to be to improve the quality of the peer review process. And where quality is defined by basically two functions. One is filtering manuscripts for publication, and number two, making suggestions on how the manuscript could be improved along the pathway to publications. So I think as long as those two functions, which dictate the quality of the AAS journals, was filtered, I think potential changes to the peer review process would be just fine. So that's what I wanted to say in part 2 of this video series on anonymity, and in the next video series we will cover a bit about the double anonymous option that the AAS journals offers. Okay, thanks. See you on the next one.